You know, the scriptures specifically point out that God's people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding. And those things are a knowledge of God. Now, one of the things that is very important to me is to teach specifically the basics. And one of the basics I like to go over is the Ten Commandments. If you were to look in Exodus chapter 20, you'll see the first part of chapter 20 is about the Ten Commandments. Why are these commandments important? Well, you know, it was a time where God was giving his laws and basically telling his people, look, if you can follow these laws, two things are going to happen. You're going to be able to understand how to respect me and honor God, respect and honor God, and the second is how to get along with each other. You know, it was, I remember reading this somewhere where someone said that, you know, we have so many tens of thousands of laws in our different cultures, and it's all because people cannot follow the simple 10 laws that God gave. So it's important to understand these first 10 because they're the, you know, like I said, if you read in Exodus 20, if you want to have a really good relationship with God, you know, you'll need to know these. But how do you remember them? If you were to ask anyone that says, hey, I'm a Christ follower or I believe in God, and if you were to ask them, hey, name 5 of the 10 commandments, majority of people couldn't name them. Okay, they might go the easy ones. Oh, you shouldn't steal, or you know, you shouldn't murder anyone. And you know, okay, that's very generic. But how do you remember all 10? Now, one of the things about my past is I was a school teacher for a good 15 years, and you know, I also taught Sunday school in Awana, and so I would teach children, and a lot of times I would teach basic things. And even today, I mean, these are great lessons to learn for adults in how to memorize, you know, certain things. And in this case, how do you memorize the 10 Commandments? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our hands here. And this is how we're going to memorize the 10 Commandments. So if you look at my fingers, if I put up 1, just go like this, 1. 1 means you should have no other gods. There's only one God. That was the God of Israel. He brought the people out of Egypt, and God is one. You only believe in one God. Now, if I were to put up 2 fingers, and if you went like this, 2, and those 2 fingers are bowing down, I would say, thou shalt not worship other gods. Don't bow down and worship other gods, because there's only one God. And if you believe in that God, that means you don't believe in multiple gods, you believe in one God. If you're worshiping other gods, or you know, things that were created by men's hands, or people in particular that claim themselves to be gods, you're actually forfeiting and misunderstanding commandment number 1. Thou shalt not have any other gods. Commandment 2, thou shalt not worship any other gods. Number 3 is if you were to take 3 and put it over your lips, probably can't hear me, but if you were to put it over your lips, 3 means don't take God's name in vain. You know, when you hear people cursing and saying GD, you know, and it's just flippant, you have to be very careful, because taking God's name in vain is very serious. You know, that's almost like abusing. You know how people like to name drop? It's almost like, well, I can flippantly use God's name because I know him, you know, or he does what I command. That's using his name in vain, and it actually hurts or ruins your relationship with God. So number 3 over the mouth means don't take God's name in vain. Number 4, if you were to take your 4 fingers and put them on your head and kind of like bow down, 4. When you do that, it means honor. And if you were to think of honor the Sabbath day. You know, number 4 deals with the Sabbath. Why did God want you to honor the Sabbath day? Well, he says specifically, he says, hey, look, I created the world and everything in 6 days, and I rested on the seventh. Now, there's a lot of debate. Some, if you talk to Seventh-day Adventists, they're like, hey, Saturday is the true Sabbath. Or, you talk to others that are a little more liberal and say, hey, as long as one of the days out of the week you're resting. I'm not going to get into those details. I'm just going to say God said to rest. And if some people can work themselves right into the ground. And if you don't rest, you need to rest not only physically, but also spiritually. So it's important to take the Sabbath or take the rest day, a day of rest, and dedicate it to God. Just remember these first 4 commandments are about your relationship with God. Number 1, honoring Him only. Number 2, not looking around to worship other gods. Number 3, not using His name in the wrong way. And number 4, honoring the Sabbath day. You're dedicating that to Him because you're honoring what He did. So those first 4 are about your relationship with God. Now, when we move on to 5, if you were to take your 5 fingers and kind of make a karate chop and make a salute, this means honor your mother and father, kind of like saluting your mother and father. So number 5 is honoring your mom and dad. Now, number 5 is your relationship with your parents, your family. And it's actually the only commandment with a promise. Commandment number 5 actually says you will live a long time. Now, there's kind of a debate theologically if that means the length of your life. You will live a longer life because you honor your mom and dad. Others say it will be a life of respect in your community because you honor your parents. I'm not going to get into debates with that. I'm just going to say honor your mom and dad. If you were to read further into chapter 20 and 21, you would see that in Exodus, if a child was to harm their parents, they would actually could be put to death for it. So obviously God wants you to honor your parents. And I think if you look at it just in general as a society, if more people honored their mother and father, maybe we wouldn't have some of the problems that we have today. When I taught in the school system as an elementary school teacher, I had a lot of students that came from single family homes. In other words, only their mom was raising them. There was a large absence of fathers to teach and help raise children. So honor your mother and father. It's important because commandment number 5 is the only one, like I said, is the only one with a promise. And if you can be honorable to your parents, it's almost at the same time just being honorable to God because you're keeping a promise. Now, number 6, if you were to take your index finger and point it at your palm of your other hand, that means thou shalt not murder. Okay, now thou shalt not murder, it's kind of like taking a knife or a gun and pointing it, and thou shalt not murder. That's what that means. So that's how you remember number 6, commandment number 6. There are some misunderstandings about commandment number 6, and I want to make sure we clarify that. It is thou shalt not murder. In other words, without cause, killing someone without any cause. This is aside from, because if you could read through the scriptures, you'll see God allowed the Israelites to go into Canaan and kill a bunch of people. So be careful if people say, thou shalt not kill. Oh, I stepped on an ant. Thou shalt not kill. That's a sin. That's totally incorrect teaching. It's thou shalt not murder. If someone was to go out and actually kill somebody for no reason, that's murder, and that's breaking a commandment. If someone is protecting their home because someone breaks in and they have to kill that person because their family is going to get hurt or they're going to get personally hurt, that's not murder. Okay, so there's a distinct difference between killing and murder. And a lot of people get that confused. They say any type of killing is against the commandments of God, which is wrong. It's completely bad teaching. It's thou shalt not murder. So make sure you understand that. Number 7. So if I was to take the palm of my hand and 2 fingers, that equals 7. Commandment 7 is thou shalt not commit adultery. This is you and your husband or wife together, and only you two. No outside relationships. Adultery is outside of marriage. Whether it's you're a single person sleeping around, that's adultery, or you're a person that's married and you're sleeping with someone else, that's adultery. So it should be very clear that adultery is obviously looked down upon and is a sin. So that is number 7. 5 and 2 is 7. So palm of the hand and 2. So number 8. So you have your palm of your hand and 3 fingers. 5, if you do this motion like you're taking these 3 with the palm of your hand, your other hand, stealing. Commandment number 8 is thou shalt not steal. So if you're taking things that don't belong to you, in other words, you're taking things without permission, from the owner, and using it for yourself, or taking it and it's now your belonging, that's stealing. And just remember that these last commandments, the first 4 is your relationship with God. The last 6 are your relationship with other people. And if you're stealing from other people, you're not going to have a great relationship. So understand number 8 is thou shalt not steal. Number 9, if you were to take your fingers and go 4 on one, 5 on the other, and brush this way, okay? And when you do this, it's like a brushing away, and it's almost like the things you say don't lie. When you're pushing away like that, don't lie about others, or don't lie in general. I said these last 6 were about your relationship with people, other people. If you're lying about other people, then yeah, that's going to cause a problem in your relationships. So thou shalt not lie. Number 10, if you were to take your 10 fingers and go like this and crunch them, thou shalt not want. And what does that mean? Thou shalt not want, that means stop being greedy, wanting what other people have that you don't. If you actually read that scripture, it says, do not want anything that belongs to someone else. Don't want anyone's house, wife, husband, slaves, oxen, donkey, or anything else. Okay, so that's, if you read in 2017, Exodus 2017, and it's talking about not being greedy or wanting things that aren't yours. We live in a time period where people are the subject of marketing. Oh, you need this car to be, to look cool. You need this house, to really raise your family in, or you need to go to, this particular school, or have these kind of things in order to have this status in society. So it's creating this understanding of wanting things that you really don't need. How often do you look around your house and go, gosh, why do I have all these things that I really don't need? Why? Because at one time you harbored it in your heart that you needed that thing. It's almost like children, hey, I want this toy. They play with it for about, 3 or 4 minutes. And then next thing you know, it's like, no, I don't want it. I'm bored with it. I want to go on to something else. So be very careful because that creates a culture of greed. I have to have this, or I have to have that. So understand that 10th commandment is about greediness. So those are the 10 commandments, all by using your fingers and how to remember them. You can teach this to your children, teach this to others that are maybe followers of Christ but don't have a full understanding or grasp of remembering the 10 commandments. It is very important that when you read through the scriptures and you see how God, following and obeying God's commandments are important to Christ, important to your relationship with God. These are the beginning. These are the first 10. So try and remember them. I hope that helps, and God bless you.